Hello there everyone and welcome to the Creative Jumpstart class with the Gardens Around the World release. Today we're going to be creating a cute little scene with a greenhouse. So to start with, I am going to be using the classic greenhouse die. Now this comes in two pieces, so we have the back and also the front. I'm going to be taking both of these pieces and I'm going to be cutting these out of some pale grey cardstock. So I'm just going to pop them into place. I'm just going to add a little bit of tape into place while they do run through the die cutting machine so they don't kind of move around. So once they have been pushed through the die cutting machine, I can then remove all of these little pieces. I'm just doing this with my fingers, but you can use one of those little tools if you do have one. So you just want to be careful when you're doing this, just in case anything has not cut perfectly the first time. So there are two pieces, one on top of the other, and you can see how cute it is. I'm then going to take the Victorian greenhouse stamp set and we're going to be stamping some of these foliage or tree images that we have in the set. Now I'm going to kind of do a rock and roll technique. So I have the tree here. I stamped that using the Marshland ink. And then I took the Mangrove root ink and just added that around the outside edge to add a bit of gradient look to the image. So I'm going to take another image now. This time I'm going to start with the Misty Moor. So I just stamped that all over. And I'm then going to take the Marshland just on the outside of that image. So that's going to give us a darker look on the tips of that little one that we have there. For this one here, I'm going with the Marshland and then the sea forest to add that darker shading. So it's going to all look a little bit different, even though we've used the same inks for all of those ones there. I'm going to then move on to a different family of inks. So I've gone with the Forest Glades and then some of that really cool Evergreen to add the darker shading on that one. And I'm just going to do this one twice because I really like that color on the little cactus that we have there. So once that one's done, I'm then going to move on to a different one. I think this one's kind of a palm tree, and I've gone with the frayed leaf for the base and then the Forest Glades to add that gradient look onto this one. So I'm just going to do exactly the same with the same image for this one here. So once those are all done, I can then add in the little pots. So the little pot for the tree, I am going to be using the Cloudy Sky ink. And then for a different pot, I am going to be using the pumpkin pie. So I'm just going to pop that into place just under that little plant. And I'm then just going to kind of colour all of these little pots in all different colours. So for the other one, this little small one that we have here, I'm going to go in with the canyon clay, and that's just going to nestle in just underneath that little plant that we have overhanging the pot. I'm then going to take another pot. This is going to be for the little cactus that we have, and I'm going to go for burnt red. Now all of these little pots, they weren't really seen when I put the card together, so if you wanted to just pop these all in the same color, that's completely up to you. I was hoping to have a little bit more of a pop of color, but I didn't manage to get it. So for the last pot that we have here, I'm just going to be using the Nimbus ink to add them into place just under those little images there. Once that's done, I did want to add in a little bit more detail to these. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to take some really dark colouring pencils from the Woodless Colouring Pencils set, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shading here and there, mostly along the right hand edge. So I'm adding the right hand edge, also adding a little bit of soil into the tops of those pots. You don't necessarily have to do this if you don't want to, but I do find that adding little pencil details really does bring a lot to the images. So you can see for this little image here, I'm using a couple of the different greens from the pencil set, and I'm just adding little tiny lines into place on the image where I think would look really cool to kind of add an effect of different little tiny leaves in there. So for the palms, I just added a couple of extra strokes from the bottom of the palm leaf. And then this one here, which I think looks like a little bit of a spider plant, I just added some of the shading just along one of the edges and then added the pots in too, just on that right hand side. Again, I'm just going to add in some really dark blues onto the pots for this one. And then for this tree image, I just kind of swirled the colour around really quite gently to create a different look with that one there. And I thought it looked really, really cool. So once I've finished with adding in all of the details with the pencils, I am going to cut out all of these images. So I do have the matching dies for these, and I'm just going to pop them around. If you don't have these, you could definitely just fussy cut these out. I would recommend leaving a little bit of a white line around the edges while you do that, as it's really going to cut down on the time that you spend on doing them. So once I've done the first load, I can then kind of replace those dies around the other images that I need to cut and then run that through my machine again. Once I have all of my little images, I'm just going to add a little bit of foam tape behind each of these. So I'm just kind of adding a little bit just in the center. I'm not going to worry about covering the whole piece, just the little piece there. I have a piece of the backing from the double-sided adhesive sheets, and I'm just going to use this to kind of lay my arrangement on. So I have the back part of the die cut little greenhouse, and I'm then going to pop the little images into place. So I'm removing the backing, and because we have that piece of that double-sided adhesive backing behind us, it's not going to stick to my countertop or anywhere else because it is going to be easy release. So that's why I do use that little piece of waste, which I don't really think of as waste. I think of it as another tool in my little crafty stash. So I've popped all of the images into place, and I'm then going to add a little bit of wet glue around the outside edge of the front of the greenhouse, and I'm just going to add this to the tops and also the side. You can add it all over if you want to, but as we have all of those little images there, I just wanted it just at the tops and bottoms, and everything else will just stay in place. Once that's nicely dried, I can then pick this piece up, and as you can see, it pulls really quickly and easily away from that backing piece. Make sure that all of that wet glue is nicely dried and sealed. I can then remove any of the overhanging pieces that are coming out of the greenhouse from the bottom. And there is our little image complete. I then wanted to create a little scene onto a panel. So this is 4 1/4 and 5 1/2. And I'm just going to add a little bit of masking tape down so I can add in my grass. So for my grass, I'm using the Sea Forest ink, and I'm just using a small blending tool to add that in. I also wanted to add a little bit of texture into here, so I'm just kind of dabbing down some of the mangrove root as well, just kind of splattering that around just to add the kind of look of grass. Most of that will be covered up by the greenhouse, so if you wanted a kind of smoother blend, you can do that as well. For the top part, I did take some Dewdrops ink just to add in a little bit of a sky as well. So once that's done, because we do have those little pieces of foam tape on the backs of the images popping through the greenhouse, I can just pop that into place without adding any more adhesive. I'm then going to take one of the sentiments from the Victorian greenhouse stamp set and pop that into place using some of the obsidian ink from Altenew. And here is the card complete. I really do hope that you liked the card and that you've enjoyed the video as well. If you do create a card that was inspired by this, it'd be great if you do share because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye bye.